spiritual every day. I don't forget my 7 roles in life: as a husband, as a son, as a professional, right? I have goals that I have for each day. And even though some days I don't achieve it, but you keep doing it every day, it really creates a more complete well-being for me. And I'm not perfect every day, but at least I try every day to achieve. And it's the small things that you do that accumulate over time to create a very positive effect.
Hi HR Nation, welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives in the world's leading global brands. Today we've got a special show. We've got 2 guests on the show. We're joined by IHG's Raymond Co, Senior Vice President of HR and Global Learning Americas. And we're also joined by Joanna Kurowska, who's the Managing Director of UK and Ireland. Welcome to the show. How are you both?
We're good. I'm very good. Thank you for asking.
Very good. Excited to be here.
I love the fact, and I want to point this out, that you've both just met each other on this call.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So what a way for an intro. It just shows how much of a global, diverse organization you have.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I'll connect with you, Joanna, when I'm there in September.
Oh, excellent! Please do. Please do.
I'll be have a global meeting there.
Amazing. Well, in all seriousness, you've both come on this call because of both of your passions for well-being, and that's how this came to life. Before we jump into the show, Raymond, for both of you, tell everyone a little bit about your personal background and journey to where we are today. Sure.
My name is Raymond Co. As Chris was saying, I'm the HR leader for the Americas, and I also am responsible for global learning. My background is actually I'm from the Philippines, and I grew up in the Philippines, 3rd generation Chinese. And my first 28 years was with Procter & Gamble. I worked for P&G. And then the last 9 years I've been with IHG. For the first 5 years of my career in IHG, I was in Shanghai, handling our Greater China division. And then when my predecessor decided to retire, I was brought back to the US to take over the role. And my journey in wellness started about 20 years ago when my previous company sent me to a program called Corporate Athlete in Lake Nona, Orlando. And that completely changed my life. At that time, I was in the worst shape of my life. And my wife has been warning me that I'm going to make her a widow. Just to give you some numbers for perspective. At that time, I was 225 to 230 pounds. I was going home late every night, having late dinner, then going to sleep, not sleeping well, traveling, not eating properly. And my triglyceride level were like 700. My cholesterol was over 300. So I was just I was just waiting for a heart attack to happen with my workload and stress. And so by going through the program, I realized the science behind wellness, right? And it's not just one aspect, but looking at physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And frankly, after 6 months, I told the team, you're going to see a completely new person, because the program gave me the tools to do what I need to do. And in less than 6 months, I lost 60 pounds. And for the last 20 years, I've kept it off. And I've been eating properly, understanding how the glucose works in your body. And it has made me a better person, a better father, a better manager, a better professional. And I'm just very thankful. And probably it's okay for me to tell you, I'm turning 60. Hopefully, you'll say that I don't look 60.
You don't.
You don't look 60.
I compare myself.
Yeah. Wow. What an amazing journey. Congratulations, Raymond, for making that change. That's pretty amazing there. Joanna, what about you?
So I actually shared the 10 years journey in IHG with you, Raymond. So I have joined 10 years ago. Today, indeed, I lead the UK and I market, and I have come from different paths of life here at IHG, but always very, very close to the hotels and to the operations. I was born in Warsaw, in Poland. I'm one of 7. I'm the oldest daughter of my parents. And I always wanted to work abroad, and I always wanted to travel. So I needed the job that will give me that. And IHG is absolutely fulfilling this desire to meet people, travel, do different things, different days, see different things every single day. And when I reflected on the topic, Chris, I thought there's 2 words that you sort of gave us to think about. There's wellness and there is well-being. And I went for a very long walk trying to understand what is really the difference and how do I perceive the difference between the 2 words. And the easiest way for me to imagine how they are different was to associate the word wellness with the body and the word well-being with my mind, and thinking of how those two, they coexist to actually help me and make me happy. And my ultimate purpose in everything I do, be it at work, be it with my husband, be it with my family, is I actually really think that we are here on this planet to ultimately be happy or to live a happy life. And my discovery of wellness and well-being was around, I can't get to the state of happiness if those two are not in sync and if those two are not in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I love
that's
that.
me.
Yeah, I love that. And I kind of just shared my journey as well while we're here on that process. And I said to you just before we started that I hid my battle with anxiety and depression, and I had panic attacks. And I didn't know what they were. I was like, what's happening to me? And I started having those when I was maybe 14, and until I was maybe 32, I hid it from everyone, friends, family, my wife. 15 years I hid it, and it caused conflicts in my relationships at work with my wife. She's like, why don't you want to come to this party? Well, I was scared to say that I feel overwhelmed, and I feel like I'm having a heart attack and I don't know why. And I did, and it was during a podcast that I kind of shared with a lot of our listeners who are listening now. Have heard this story before, and that changed my life. And I realized that in order for me to be the best husband, the best dad, the best friend, I have to take care of and prioritize Chris.
Yep.
I spent my whole life trying to please everyone else, and it came at the expense of my mental health and well-being. And I was working myself sick. So whilst on the outside, my friends and family all saw me as successful. I've got a great job, doing well. I've got the home, amazing family life. Inside, I was completely suffering and broken. And that journey, I'm still on that journey. And for me, it's kind of three things. If I'm focusing on, if I'm sleeping well, eating well, and exercising, and consistently, I feel great, and I don't feel as anxious. And I realize that those are the three pillars that I have to take care of. And if I can take care of those, then I can be the best version of me for everyone else. It's not easy though to do that, and I do slip back, and I can see it. Even my friends, even my team recently said, Chris, we noticed you've been coming in late. We noticed you've not been eating well again. Maybe you should get that in check. And I love having that support system around me as well to do that.
Thanks for sharing, Chris. That's a very personal story.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to start then. How are you prioritizing your own mental health and well-being so you can be your best, the best leader, the best mum, the best dad, the best friend? What are some of the practical things that each of you are doing? Raymond, you want to jump in first?
Sure. Again, I said I was very fortunate. And since 20 years ago, I've been on this journey, and I've been researching, right? So first, it's really linking it to my higher mission in life, my purpose in life. I come from a family where a lot of people die young. My grandfather died when he was 63. My father was 56. My grandmother died when he was 24. She was 24. Two of my aunt's sister, who are very favorite aunts of mine, died when they were in their 40s. So I've seen a lot of death in the family. And my father never got to see me get married and never got to see the grandchildren. So one of my goals is, God willing, for as long as I can, I'm going to live for as long as I can, hopefully to see my children get married. One of the visions I have in my mind is to bring my daughter down the aisle and then get to see my grandchildren. So for as long as I can, I'm going to do everything I can within my control to take care of myself, because it's linked to a higher purpose in life. And I realize the teachings of Jim Lear, who's a very good personal friend of mine, who's helped me over the years. Health ignites performance in all facets of your life. And it really is composed of 4 dimensions. It's not just the mental aspect. If you just focus on the mental without the other parts, it won't help. So I was very mindful of the 4 things that we were told, and Ariana probably talks about it too: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So the first thing I need to do is physical. Do I have enough gasoline in the tank? Right? Do I have enough energy when I wake up? And then, is the energy I have, is it positive or negative? And I achieve that through positive relationship in life. The third one is, can I focus my energy when I need to? And last but not the least, can I sustain my energy? And that's something I've been practicing all these years because of all the teachings that I have, right? And so for physical, it's the same thing that you probably have learned from different people. Am I eating right? Do I understand how the glucose works in my body? Do I understand the power of hydration? Do I understand the power of sleep and recovery? And then for emotional, it's really about my relationship. Am I thankful every day? Every morning I wake up very thankful for what happened in the last 24 hours. Every day I look forward to helping somebody without expecting anything in return. And you'll be amazed. The more you build positive relationship, the more you saying simple, very specific thank you notes to people is very energizing. And the more you do that, it generates positive energy. And then for mental, it's your ability to focus, right? I have some form of ADHD. And now that I'm older, I'm calmed down a bit, but I've learned mindfulness exercise. I obviously, one of the things I'm still trying to do is learn how to meditate, and where you meditate for 45 minutes. But I went through this program that was very fascinating. It's called Positive Intelligence by Shirshad Shamin. And he talks about the concept of PQ. And basically it's anytime you can focus any of your 5 senses in your mind on something for 10 seconds, it's a mindfulness exercise. For example, if in between activities, I would, for example, do this exercise where I listen to the friction coming from my thumb and my index finger, and I focus on it for about 10 seconds. And I do about 5 of this, it calms you down. And one thing I learned is that, and I don't know if you've heard this, one of the most significant sentences I've learned about stress management is this: there's no stress in the present moment. Stress is always about the past or the future, never about the present. And a lot of us have to learn how to channel and the fact that I'm talking to you now, I'm not stressed. Maybe when I start thinking about my commitment to my CEO tomorrow, I start getting stressed, right? But the key thing is stress is good. It's the lack of recovery that's not good. Human beings thrive on stress, but it's learning how to recover and learning how to channel in the present moment is helpful. And last but not the least, the spiritual is constantly being clear. What is your purpose in life? What are the key roles you have in life? And making sure that keeps you grounded, right? And the combination of this actually helps you a lot with mental wellness. And it's so my learning is that it's not just focusing on mental alone without touching physical, emotional, and spiritual will not help. You have to tie it all together. So hopefully that helps a bit.
That was a Raymond Co masterclass right there, Raymond. that you just gave us. Do you want to jump in there, Joanna?
I will, although that was truly a class, so I'm still memorizing what you have said. What stayed in me, I think, you talked about every morning. You said every morning I wake up and I'm grateful for what had happened in the past 24 hours. I do something similar, although every morning what I learned, and I learned it from one of the good colleagues of mine. She shared this hint with me years ago, and then I took it on and tried to practice. And I found it one of the most helpful advice I have ever got was wake up in the morning and think of what your intention for the day is, whatever that might be. It might be Saturday morning, where the intention of the day is going to be to spend Saturday in the right way with people who I love. Or it can be Tuesday morning, where the intention of the day is come best prepared to the podcast with Chris, or do anything else that I need to do today or tomorrow. And it is different than planning a day. It's giving a day a purpose. It's giving a day an intention of how I want to be and how I want to show up. And when I think of the responsibility, and if you knew me a little bit better, you would know that responsibility is a big thing for me. That's one of my key words. It is ingrained in me, the feeling of me being responsible for something or someone. Today, being responsible for the division, being responsible for my teams, being responsible for the business. And what I did learn on the journey here was that it is quite an exhausting path to be in, or place to be in. It is a very high intensity place. As for you, Chris, your job is, and Raymond, for you, your role definitely requires very high intensity presence. And I can't give myself and I can't give others this presence if I don't come to this with intentional calmness in me, and practice this pausing and being very mindful of this is what I am doing in this half an hour. And it does miracles. I mean, the half an hour of being truly present and doing things right has a much bigger meaning than 8 hours time that is spent in a different manner.
Yeah, maybe building on that, right? One of the things I realized, Joanna, you and in my job, I learned early on that I should not be a source. Work is already stressful enough. I should not try to be the source of more stress for my people. And when I was younger as a leader, I get worked up. And then I realize when I get stressed, it creates a Christmas tree effect of stress in the organization. And frankly, over the years, I've made the more fortunate I have been to be in senior position, the more conscious I am of trying to be deliberately, to be very calm during difficult times, like what we had in the COVID, because my job is not to create any more panic in a stressful situation. And being very conscious about that has helped me a lot, because I know I was a source of stress in my younger years to my people. And it doesn't help. And leadership comes with a huge responsibility, and the ability to be calm and thoughtful and mindful during difficult time is something our people are expecting from us. And that's a responsibility that really helps me through the most difficult time the last 2 years.
Yeah. I love that point, because during I've just recently got a coach, and one of the feedback that I got from my team, from my 360 feedback, was sometimes they don't know which Chris is going to walk through the door. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And they said, well, sometimes you come in with this intensity that then ripples throughout the organization. You know, Chris is stressed, overwhelmed, and it kind of ripples through the team and they feel that effect. Or on other days, I walk in with super high energy, excitement, enthusiasm, which also then raises the excitement in the room. And one of the members said, we don't know what Chris is turning up today. You know, and again, I never even thought about that impact of me feeling that way, and then that having that Christmas tree effect, like you mentioned, throughout the business. And now it's something, when I leave the house in the morning, I actually talk to myself and say, what Chris is turning up today. So I'm more conscious about that effect. But it also allows me to start my day with gratitude and what am I grateful for, etc. And then I'm in that mindset. So when I walk in the room, I'm bringing that Chris into the building. So that's something I didn't even realize that I was doing. So I can definitely relate to your point. What would you say is the biggest investment you would say you've made in yourself that's improved your well-being?
You want to go first, Joanna?
I can go first. Happy to talk about the investment. Chris, when you spoke about this, the awareness that the team member has helped you achieve, actually. So that prompted me to think about the investment in self-awareness and being able to ask the right question and see myself better, as if I was holding a mirror. And it takes practice, right? It is an investment. It requires a certain discipline of being willing to listen to the feedback that I give myself as to who was I in this moment, or how I might have come across. And what helped me in terms of investing time in this thinking was to allocate time to think. I used to fly a lot. And Raymond, you might know that I was in a finance operations role, or the operations role, I used to fly from one hotel to another, 3 hotels, 4 hotels a week, one of those people. And I always thought that I can just take the plane time and I can think in a plane, because there's literally nothing better to do than think in a plane. And I thought that I was doing well, because I thought, wow, I have so many hours in a plane. So there's a lot of thinking I'm doing. Until I hit the moment and the self-realization that honestly, it's not the time well spent. I can't think on a plane. No one really can, and there's noise and everything else that's going on. And if I really want to think with a purpose of thinking and reflecting, I need to allocate time that is designed for this. And I made a very conscious and quite consistent decision of protecting my Fridays. And I know we all tried it in our lives, not to have meetings on Friday afternoon and not to plan stuff on Friday afternoon. But I went farther than that. I planned a meeting, which is called thinking time, on Friday afternoon. And it is there. People think that I'm extremely busy because it's in my calendar every single Friday. And I just don't give it away. I keep it for myself, because this is my investment in making sure that I had this pause and I have a time to reflect. So it's small investment, if you think about it. It's not a massive financial investment, but it changed the way I am.
Yeah, go for it. I love that, by the way. And my co-founder and I did something similar, where we realized that we didn't have any time. We're so busy focusing, so being in the business, we couldn't focus on the business. So we ended up we booked out every Wednesday. So now every Wednesday we can stop being in a day-to-day grind of the work, and then kind of take a bird's eye view and look down at the organization and be like, where are we? And now we can actually focus on the business as opposed to working in the business for that one day. And that's been a game changer. The amount of progress or, challenges we've overcome and bottlenecks that we've realized that we were creating ourselves in the business that were overcome from that one. And every one of our team members know that Wednesday, Chris and Shane are focusing purely on that. And so I love that you're doing that and being intentional. And I do think it's important that you also are communicating that to your team though, because then it shows them that it's okay to do that.
What we have done, Chris, just to answer to this point, I have my think time, and for my team here, for this team in the current role, I call it Power Down Friday.
Oh, nice.
And I made a commitment to the team that after 2 p.m. on Friday, unless it's really critical for the business, I will not send them a message. I will schedule it to be sent on Monday morning so that, okay, it's just one me. It's not the massive organization that might be sending them messages, but at least from me, there will be no activity after 2 p.m. so that they feel empowered and they have time and space to do what you just described, focusing on something else.
Yeah. I love that you did that because you gave them the permission to do that, right? This isn't just something the managing director can do or the CEO can do. This is for everyone. So I love that you did that.
And Joanna, you and I are very fortunate. We work for a company that's very big on this, starting from our CEO. So Focus Friday, every effort not to have programmatic meetings on Fridays so that you can focus on things. I feel I'm very fortunate. We're both very fortunate working for a company that's very nurturing in this space, right? So it allows us to do that. But traveling on the plane, I used to travel a lot. Traveling can really get very stressful. We think it's just going on a plane, and if you do it every week, it's very stressful. Going through the airport with the security procedures, so I can relate to what you. I used to do that. That's right. Now, Chris, for myself, as you get to know me, I'm very disciplined. Once I'm a habit of creature, and that's something that I've learned long ago. Is that we have to have habits, because if we rely on our self-discipline, it's limited, right? And you remember when you're in your school days, I would wake up when I was in elementary or grade school. Every morning, you wake up at 5, you have breakfast, and then you go to the school bus. Every day, it's the same, right? And the muscle memory is there. So that's what I try to rely on. So what am I doing to take care of myself? I'm very conscious about doing all the 4 dimensions. So let's talk about physical, right? I exercise every day except for Sunday. And every day I would exercise interval training, high intensity interval training from 5 to 6 or 5 to 6:30. I would be drinking, I hydrate a lot. I drank so much water that it creates movement. It forces you to go to the bathroom. and it's a simple thing that I've learned, right? And I saw the picture of somebody showed me a picture of 2 brains, a dehydrated brain and a hydrated brain. And it's amazing.
You're making me want to drink now. I'm going to drink some water while you're saying that.
Look, Raymond, water is here.
I drink a lot of water every day, right? And by the way, I eat small meals, but I snack all the time. And I learned the concept of glycemic food index, right? Where it measures the speed in which the food you eat gets converted to glucose. So I try to avoid low glycemic food. I go with high glycemic, I go with low glycemic food rather than high glycemic food so that it stays in my system more. And understanding my sugar level helps me a lot. And then, and of course, sleep and recovery. Lately, I've pampered myself. I don't know if you can save enough money, invest on a massage chair. Every night, my wife and I will queue on our massage chair and we would massage for 40 minutes on the chair. And frankly, I've been wanting it. Finally, I bought it 3 months ago. It's one of the best investment I have. Very relaxing, and if you're going to spend on a higher quality massage chair, it's worth every day. If I calculate, it's going to pay out in less than a year, right? And so
you need to buy a second one for your wife, Raymond. I think rather than buying one, buy 2.
I think for now it's good. We queue. I usually go first, then she goes second. So that's on the physical. On the emotional aspect, I write a lot of very specific thank you notes. I don't just say thank you. I would say thank you for this. This is what you did, and as a result, this is what happened. And I find it so recharging writing. And in my job, I get to do a lot of that every day, thanking people specifically for what they've done. And I made every day I would wake up thinking, who am I going to help today? What am I going to do to add value? And it really generates a lot of energy. And then in terms of mental, I take PQ reps every time between events, right? Sometimes we rush from meetings to meetings. And my EA knows that they should not schedule back-to-back meeting, because once you get to know me, I'm never late for a meeting. And a lot of times we're late is because we get our schedule back-to-back. It creates artificial pressure. Oh my God, I'm late. Then you create more stress. And so I do PQ reps and meditate mindfulness. I do about 5-10 PQ reps in between sets to help me prepare for the next session. And it's simple, right? And I was saying, anytime you can focus your mind and your 5 senses on something for 10 seconds, that's 1 PQ rep. And Shirsep Samin said, do 100 of them during the course of the day. And by the way, it starts with your morning exercise. All your activity, you can do PQ reps. For example, in the morning, we all got to shower. Do you feel the water going down your scalp? When you're shampooing your hair, can you really dig it in and shampoo? When you're brushing your teeth, can you focus on the brush touching your teeth and the sudsing in your mouth? And it really calms you down, right? And then spiritual every day, I don't forget my 7 roles in life: as a husband, as a son, as a professional, right? I have goals that I have for each day. And even though some days I don't achieve it, but you keep doing it every day, it really creates a more complete well-being for me. And I'm not perfect every day, but at least I try every day to achieve. And it's the small things that you do that accumulate over time to create a very positive effect. And it's not perfect. I'm still struggling days, but I never miss a day of workout. And even if I go to a hotel where there's no gym, I would use the fire exit or the steps, and I would climb up the stairs. I used to go up from floor 1 to floor 8, down maybe 4 or 5 times just to get my heart rate up, right? And people in stressful job needs to do interval training, because when you're training yourself, the body doesn't know where the stress is coming from, whether it's exercise or other things, right? By learning how to do high-low, I do 4 minutes fast, 2 minutes slow. I do about 40 minutes of that. And I highly recommend it to all people in stressful job. Do interval training for cardiovascular, assuming your doctor gives you the clearance, right? Yeah. That's helpful. So I'm sorry it's long, but that's how I take care of myself.
No, I love that. Yes, so much there. And you was talking about the importance of not just mental, not just physical. And that was the big surprise to me, because when I work out, my mental health improves. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's not, and that's something I'm kind of learning more of. Like, it's very hard for me to feel my physical best and be stressed. Like when I'm working out, the endorphins that are being released, you just feel good about yourself in general. As well. And because I work out, I'm now tired, so I actually get a better sleep. And then I'm eating better, which also improves my mood and my sleep as well. So there's a sort of compound effect that takes place. But it also happens the opposite direction. If I miss a gym, then I don't eat well that evening, then I have a bad sleep, and then it compounds the other way. And it's sort of, now I recognize it in myself. I'm more like conscious of when I don't do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, you didn't do that. Then you ate a really bad meal, and then you had a terrible night's sleep, and now you turn up to work late and you're stressed out. And I give myself a break though, and it's something my coach has helped me with, is I used to give myself a hard time. And now I always reframe that to, did I do my best to work out today? Did I do my best to eat well? Because sometimes you can't, and you will miss it. And rather than giving yourself a hard time, just say to yourself, did I do my best to do that?
And
that's been a big one.
Right? In your case, very intentional. But I think one thing is very clear, right? You cannot just focus on mental and not focus on the rest. It's all connected together.
100%.
That's the thing.
Yeah, definitely. How are you, it's great that you're both doing this individually, but how are you ensuring this is kind of transcending to your colleagues and the wider team?
Joanna, you want to go first?
I think, Raymond, you did, in a way, you did answer partially to this question. We are both lucky, right? You got us today, so you got 2 representatives from IHG, the company that has and is dialing up in this space quite considerably. We do talk about wellness and well-being. It's part of the conversation as any other matter is. It's not just an HR thing, or it's not just a thing somewhere because, we might be celebrating the Global Inclusion and Wellbeing Week. It is part of the fabric, and it is part of the DNA. And the language comes from our CEO, and the culture is being somehow trickling down to all of our leaders, down to us and then to all our teams. And when I listen to you, especially talk now about how you work on the 4 perspectives of 4 dimensions of well-being personally, I did think of my team. and not only of my direct team, but I thought of my 350 hotels and thousands of people who are working in those hotels. And yes, they also have stressful jobs. They might be stressful differently than ours, but every single life does carry a certain degree of stress with itself, no matter what people do in life. And I think it's what helped me, and I'm trying to live by this principle, is just approaching every conversation with this compassion of, I just don't know how your day has been and which parts of the 4 dimensions you might have missed because your life just has gone into a certain direction. So trying to be first and foremost compassionate about the language I'm using and the questions I am asking, and then listening and embracing the answer. Embracing in a sense, and that's what IHG taught me, embracing an answer in the sense of, I can't help everyone and I can't have a solution to all the questions. And this is not my role, because I can't be a professional in every aspect of life. But what I can do is guide and help and support by listening, understanding, and then guiding a person to the right resource. And I think that that's what IHG is doing well. I am quite admirative of what we are doing, comparing it to some other companies my family is working or my friends are working, and we are different. We are really taking it seriously on every level of the organization, be it in the hotels, where we are ingraining the culture of your well-being is important to us, and if you don't feel well, tell us and we will try to help, to the corporate offices, to all the senior roles in the organization.
Did you want to add anything there, Raymond?
Yeah, sure. I think it's in several levels, right? Obviously, one is I try to be a role model in this area for at least a colleague. I know in the department, everybody knows that I'm really into this thing, right? So they know. Second, I've been doing a lot of training recently in the last 2 years on my personal lessons of health and well-being. I must have run the program for over 900 people, right, to educate people about it. In fact, when I showed the video on glucose, a lot of people are seeing for the first time, oh my God, that's really how the glucose works. For example, I'll give you an example. I love cheesecake. When I was 225 pounds, I would eat one cheesecake in one sitting, right? By understanding how the glucose works in your system, now I can still enjoy my cheesecake. I just have one portion, I spread it out over 2 days, right? Not consuming all of it, because once I consume all of it, my body only converts portion to glucose, the rest becomes fat. And think about the cumulative effect of the fat being stored in your system. That's how we gain a lot of weight. So I do a very conscious effort of educating. I think in my one-on-one, you'll see, you can talk to my colleagues. When I have one-on-one with them, after talking about the work, I would say, how's your stress level? Tell me, what are you doing to take better care of yourself, right? And third, and the fourth least, in the corporate level, here in the US, our health and benefits program, I oversee that. We have a lot of programs to help our people nurture and focus on their wealth. And I'll be happy to show you more. I don't think this program is enough time, but we have a very comprehensive health and well-being program as part of our healthcare program. And we do a lot of promotions on that. So at 4 different levels, right? On my personal level, being a role model, educating, in my one-on-one relationship with them, talking about that, and then at the corporate level. And hopefully we keep working on it, and we're gonna convert more people. You know, most people know that taking care of themselves is important, but for some reason, not all of them are committed to it. And unless you have unless you can link it to a higher level, purpose in life, it won't happen. So when people tell me they don't have time for exercise, you know what I tell them? Just tell me you don't want to do it. Because if you really want something, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And I give an example. When I first saw my wife, she wasn't my wife yet at that time. I was very interested in her. Believe it or not, the next few weeks, all my energy was trying to get her phone number, trying to get to do everything, trying to get her out on a date, right?
We do believe you.
Right? And so when people really want something, it's going to happen. How do we make them want it? It has to be linked to a higher purpose in life. And there was a big story, and you probably heard about it, and it really hit me. There was a study in the US said that when women who smoke, when they're pregnant, they stop smoking. You heard about that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Because they felt there's some more important being in their body. They need to take care of the baby, because that's the higher purpose. And by linking that some of the people who are helping in smoking cessation said, link it to something with your children. Maybe it will help you stop smoking. So I again, one of the things, my goal is, I can't help everybody, but to keep helping people remind how health and wellness link to a higher purpose in their life. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it cannot be sustained.
No, I agree. And for me, the reason I made that change wasn't because of me, it's because of my 3-year-old daughter. And it was because I want to be around for her, and I want to be happy and be, spend quality time with her and my wife and be a better husband. It wasn't because of me, because I could have done that a long time ago, like you said, as well. And it links directly back. But to both of what you've said there is storytelling is one of the key things, right? By your employees hearing stories from your CEO, from yourselves, that then shapes the culture of the organization, right? And then it encourages those leaders to share their stories, and that permeates throughout the organization.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well. It's amazing. I always tell people, when I first arrived in the US, I told the team, even if I don't do anything, by just being myself, the culture will change. Without doing anything, just being myself. And you know why? People watch our behaviors. The way I like meeting, for example, all my people know that I start meetings on time. Guess what? The first time they miss the meeting, right? The next time they won't miss it again, because I start exactly on time. I'm 10 minutes before the meeting starts, I'm there, right? And so my behavior is driving the culture, right? So one of the things that we have to be very conscious is, we as leader, unfortunately or fortunately, we're public figures. People are watching our behavior, and our behavior will drive it, right? And so never underestimate the impact of your behavior on the organization. Even if you don't do anything, just by being yourself and doing the things you like doing, it's going to create the culture, right? And over the years, I've learned to be very conscious about the impact of my behavior on the organization. And so in the spirit of health and wellness, hopefully they know that this is what's important to me. Hopefully it permeates through the system, and hopefully it links to their purpose in life, right? So that's something I learn a lot over the years. It's just making sure that I'm a public figure right now. People are watching me.
Yeah.
You see, Raymond, I think it actually, as you say, just being yourself, even without doing anything, is already changing the culture. I actually think being yourself, or being oneself, is doing more than anything else that we have on our agenda for the day. Staying true to ourselves day after day, role after role, organization after organization. That is what makes a great leader. At least people who I admire, those are exactly people who you described, right? People who stay consistently themselves. And I learn from them.
It's important. And Joanna, like, one of the things I was going to talk about is, I know you're part of IHG's European Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Board. Yeah. And, that's where we talk about bringing your full self to work and feeling included. We have to create that environment first, for people to be, as you mentioned, and yourself, Raymond, to feel comfortable to do that. Because I know, especially for me in previous organizations, I didn't feel like I could be Chris, and I was trying to conform and be who I thought the business needed me to be, and it was exhausting. And that's as a white male, and I know I am very privileged, so I can only imagine how others, so it's all well and good us saying that, but as organizations, we have to create that environment and that psychological safety for people to do that, because that is another cause of stress and anxiety, and does impact their well-being.
Yep. It's plenty of elements in what you said. I think that there is this element of us as an organization admitting that we are entering the place that we very much would want to be right, but we don't always get it right, and we might not be getting it right. And we are trying to venture into the area of diversity and equity and inclusion, and we do it with absolutely the right intention, and we do it with all our heart, but we need help to understand what it might mean to our colleagues, and how to make IHG and how to make our hotels the place, you said, where people feel included. I actually like using the word where people do belong and feel that they belong. Mm-hmm. And one way of doing it is, and that is just one, but very powerful for myself, is by just admitting that we don't have those answers. and sharing the stories, whether those are personal stories like we shared here in the conversation with you, or whether those are stories of us learning or us hearing stories from others in the business. I like sharing a lot, the stories of my brothers and sisters who are all younger than me and for whom this area of feeling good and belong to the place where they work is so much more important in their journey than it was for me 20 years ago when I started the journey in the workplace. I didn't imagine that I had a right to even think that well-being is important.
Yeah.
I thought that my duty is to do what the corporate organization, and it was not IHG at that time, what they required me to do, what I imagined they required me to do. Asking those questions and even being able to articulate those areas is a whole new language that I even don't have. But by listening to a different generation or to different people, I bit by bit, and through the D&I board, that's why I really wanted to join the board, because I wanted to learn the whole area of things that I just didn't know existed. And as you say, we are all privileged on this call, right? We are all in a very fortunate situation in life. And there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that, Raymond. Have you found that this next generation of colleagues are more concerned around well-being than previous generations?
Yes, I do. In fact, we work in the US. We work with a company called Watson Tower Willis. They handle all our health.
Willis Tower Watson.
WTW. Actually, I'll call them WTW, right? And so I'm sorry if I reversed the
I'm only joking. But yeah,
they did a research, and it's true. What you're asking is that they did a research that says that this new generation are more conscious about health and wellness. I guess it's the nature of times, the access to information, having YouTube and all kinds of information available in the internet has helped people a lot. And WTW survey for 2022 says that's the case. The new generation, especially the Gen Z, that's something that very, very conscious about. And closer to home, I look at my eldest daughter, who was born in 95, and my son, who's born in 97. Honestly, at this stage in their life, they're more aware of health and wellness than when I was in the same age. They understand the science of food, they understand the science of exercise. So this generation is so lucky that they have so much access to information. The question is, what do they do about it, right? And I feel this generation is very fortunate, just because of the availability of education and information than during my time. I didn't learn many things until 2003 when I attended the program. And a lot of these things I wish I knew. If I had known them earlier, I probably would live a healthier life earlier.
Yeah, you're right. I'm even finding amongst like close friends that we're having more conversations around mental health and well-being now than we ever did before. Like, especially during the lockdown, a group of my male friends, we had a Zoom call every week where we just checked in as a group just to see like, how is everyone? And before that, we'd known each other since we were, kids, and we'd never spoke about how are you feeling, like, and we found out that two of our friends were, were in a really bad place, and they had, counseling, they were suffering from anxiety, panic attack, and we all were suffering, but no one was talking to each other. And it was like, wait a minute, Ben, Colin, Joel, like we're best friends and we're not talking to each other about these things.
Yeah.
Like we're all suffering in silence. They're like, you, Chris, really? And these are people I see every day.
Yeah.
All the time. But it sort of opened up this dialogue and conversation amongst us that we never, even just talking about our relationships and marriages. It's like, why have we never spoken about these things before?
By the way, and corporations and companies are more enlightened in the last 10 to 15 years, right? When I first joined the workforce, 37 years ago, there wasn't much discussion, but you could see in the last 20 years, corporations are realizing that you want very productive and fully engaged people. You got to start talking about the well-being in the holistic sense, right? And so the last 20 years have been a period of enlightenment, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this space.
Yeah, no, definitely.
When you speak about the lockdown, if you think about it, the only difference of this time was that all the distractions were taken away from us, right? We were not meeting anymore in a pub, or we were not meeting anymore on a soccer field or wherever else, right? we needed to make an effort to talk to one another, to organize a Zoom call, because you really wanted to check in with your friends. And as much as one can sort of pretend that it is a wine hour on Friday afternoon, it has never been the same. And the distractions of the world outside was taken away. And the only thing that we had was a camera and the screen, with all the effort that reading through the screen expressions it takes. But we learned so much that we missed this social interaction enough for us to make this effort, as imperfect as it was, to dig deeper when everything else, all the other noise, was silenced by the lockdown.
Yeah, you're right. I said to the guys, I said, it's interesting how, although we're so far apart, literally, we've come so close together. You know, we're closer now more than ever. And it was almost through this shared, we all went through this together, right? No one was, you know, it was the kind of the first time everyone was going through this together.
Yeah.
And you had that common bond, and we could all talk about that. But it opened up a whole spider web of conversations that we didn't expect. And there were tears. There were, you know, there were obviously, there were smiles, there were tears, and there were mixed emotions. But it's interesting how we came out of it as such a strong unit. And similar with my team, similar with my relationship. My wife was tested harder than ever, being stuck in a house together with a 3-year-old running around. We all learned a lot about each other, and we also had a lot of time to reflect on what we want in life, who we want to be, who we want to spend time with, who we want to work for. You know, we're seeing sort of the great resignation, the great awakening, if you want to call it, that people are hearing as well. There was a lot of time to think as well. But I'm conscious of time, but before I let you go, firstly, thank you so much for sharing your personal journeys and experience. I think it's so important, and I appreciate you both taking the time to do that. And secondly, you know, what parting advice would you give to people that are listening on how they can prioritize their well-being?
Wow. You want to go first, Joanna?
I can always go first. I think that I have 3 sort of thoughts that I would share with those who will be listening, or with a team, with leaders of the leaders, or with anyone else. First is around this compassion. I think that compassionate leadership is the new type of leadership. It's more than just active listening. Is trying to immerse oneself in what you are hearing. And that requires time, it requires commitment, and it requires also a high degree of self-awareness to know how one reacts to what one hears. And that's something that I sort of took on myself personally as something I want to get there, right? I want to be known for being a leader who can compassionately listen. I think the second thing that somehow stays in my mind is we are leading people. You spoke about it, Raymond, right, about the new generation and how the priorities of the generation might be changing. We are leading this generation, and we will be leading the generation of the children of this generation. We can't stay unresponsive to what this generation is telling us. And it's not only for purely pragmatic reasons, because we want the generation to work in our hotels and to work in other industries. It's not only because of the great resignation or great awakening, whatever we call the event around us. It's because it's the right thing to do. Because the right thing to do is actually to lead people who are happy. And it is our responsibility as leaders to create an environment when they can thrive. And I think that the third one, which would be my advice or my call for action to anyone who wants to listen, is, for me, belonging is partially defined by the ability and the willingness to get involved. So if one wants to belong, if I want to belong in IHG, I make an active effort to get involved. And I so much appreciate seeing it with my colleagues, right? If you want to change the world, it's all well and good to wait for us to do that, but we might be very late with this. It's far more efficient to get involved, whether it's from the employee resource groups, whether it's from the boards, or any other diversity, equity, and inclusion activities. However you want to get involved, or just speaking up, just get involved and help us create the place where everyone belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
well,
Joanna.
for me, you probably will hear me talking about the same thing, right? Again, for anybody wanting to undertake their who's on a health and wellness journey, it's very important to link it to your purpose and mission in life, your critical roles in life. And that's the only way to sustain it, at least for me. And if you can't link it to a higher purpose, you will see yourself wavering, right? So you got to have the compass or true north that guides you. Like what you're saying for Chris, you're going to do anything for your three-year-old daughter. And the more you envision what you want to do with her, to be there for her, the more you're going to take care of yourself. So linking it to a higher vision is so important. And it has to be in the 4 dimensions. Don't just focus on one aspect. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual has to come together. Second, for the individuals that work for our organization, I have this belief that we got to focus, when we deal with everyone, we got to focus on improving what I call their 5 senses. It was an article I wrote 20 years ago called Moments of Truth. Every time I connect with an individual, I will try my best to do several things. I'll try to increase their sense of purpose, their sense of accomplishment, their sense of growth, their sense of belonging, and their sense of security. I may not be successful all the time, because if I keep on doing that, then after every encounter, the employee will become more committed, more capable, and can contribute more. And so that's something that I urge all leaders to treat every individual as individuals and focus on what are the 5 senses, what can we do for their 5 senses. And honestly, the last part is get to know yourself as well as possible. Where even now at age, I'm turning 60, there's still a lot of things I need to know about myself. And the more we can increase our self-awareness, the better, right? And there's so many tools right now, instruments to help you. And the key thing is your willingness to be vulnerable, and which is what you said earlier on, when you open up, right? And gone are the days where we look at leaders who are all-knowing, who are super individual, right? It's also important for our people to acknowledge that we're normal, ordinary human beings that go through the same thing. Just because we have an SVP title or a VP title doesn't make us super. It probably means we probably have more experience, but the willingness to be vulnerable is one of the things that I would encourage people to be. It's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
It's a sign of strength that you're willing to say, hey, this is the areas I'm not good at, or I'm struggling with this area. So hopefully those are some things. And then last but not least, never underestimate your impact on the culture. Your behavior, people are watching you. And as such, you have to be very intentional with your behaviors and what you say. So hopefully that helps.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. And to your last point, that was something that was a big fear of mine. Like, what are people going to think of me when I talk about these things? And you're right. It actually was the opposite. I kind of see the vulnerability as my superpower now. You know, it improved my relationship with my team, business, family, friends, customers. And it's created a bond with everyone that I never thought I could even have. And you feel more empowered. It's actually opposite of all of my fears that I had. So I encourage anyone to do that. But thank you so much again for joining us. I'm glad you met each other.
Nice to meet you.
Joanna, I'm gonna look you up. I'm going to look you up the next time I'm in Denham, or the next time I'm in Windsor. I think we're moving to Windsor, I think soon, right?
Yes, but I think still in September we might be in Denham. So
amazing.
Right. We'll catch up in Denham.
We'll do a reunion, but until then, I wish you all the best, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Believe it or not, it's my first podcast.
Oh, really? Well, welcome. I feel like we need to get you your own series. You've got a lot to say. We'll get you your own podcast series, and then we'll launch that. But I'll let you both run, and I'll see you again soon. But thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, nice meeting you, Raymond.
Appreciate it.